forget. Cool. All right, so there's probably going to be people jumping in and out as we go, and there's about 100 who have registered for the recording. So for you guys watching the recording, hello, welcome. I'm stoked you're here as well. Now, what I'm going to do today is I will share screen with you guys. I'm so excited to chat about this iron stuff just because I get asked so many questions on it all the time, and I just think there's probably or definitely not enough knowledge around iron. So I just think you're going to get so much out of this. Now I'm just going to mute you guys. Cool. If you could just pop in the chat box one thing you're really hoping to get out of today, just so that going into the workshop I can make sure I cover that for you, and if I don't cover that particularly, then I can cover it at the end for you. But just pop in, is it to raise your iron levels? Is it to learn more about gut health? Is it to know what you should be eating for your iron? Just pop in the chat box. What are you really hoping to get out of today's workshop? For me personally, when it comes to iron, it was really understanding how to raise my iron levels. I think that was a really big one for me, and I find for a lot of my clients it's going, well, I've got reoccurring low iron levels. What actually does this mean? How am I going to raise that in my body? So just let me know if you can what you're hoping to get out of today, and then I will share screen this for you guys. Let me just let these people in as they're jumping into the group. Cool information to your clients. Yeah, totally. I think that's a big one, especially in the training space. It's huge because athletes, even quote unquote recreational athletes, are at a higher risk of low iron than people who don't exercise. So if you are someone who's exercising, your use of iron, and we'll go into it today, but obviously you're moving oxygen around the body. That's the key thing with iron. Just mute these guys, let's jump in. Are high risk. So I feel like athletes, people who are doing PT, anything like that, are going to have that high need for it. Increasing very low iron for my 16-year-old. Yeah, okay, that's a great one, especially kids. There is a lot of kids with low iron as well. Let me just, there we go. Symptoms of iron deficiency, raise iron, learn about the importance of iron, especially skin clients and skin needling. Oh, I love that. That's a great one. Yes, that's huge as well. Again, trauma to the body, so anything where there needs to be a repair aspect, we have a higher requirement of nutrients and minerals. Obviously bleeding is one thing. Where there's going to be iron loss with skin needling, you won't get that, but that healing factor in the skin, zinc, iron, minerals, cofactors, is huge, and I see that in so many of my clients. Cool. Hello to the other few people who have jumped in. Now guys, if you have questions as I'm going, feel free to pop them in the chat group. Usually I get notifications, so I should be able to see it anyway, but otherwise you're more than welcome to ask afterwards. You'll have a chance to ask questions on that as well, so that's totally fine as well. So I'm just going to share screen with you and pop you over to our workshop for today, but there will be a lot of information. Like I said, this is recorded, so let me just pop that in screen. So you can definitely I'll email you all the recording afterwards, so you can flip through any other questions you have, but I'd really appreciate it. Yeah, if you do ask questions, if stuff comes up, just because I find that there's sometimes I get really nerdy on stuff and I get overexcited, so I'll go down a rabbit hole and you'll be like, Sheradyn, totally don't care about that. But just try and keep it, I'll try and keep it relevant for you. Pop your questions in, and I would love to hear from you. Cool. So for those who don't know me or haven't met before, I've probably chatted to you on Instagram at some point. Maybe you've listened to one of my podcasts. I do have a lot of podcasts on these topics that we're jumping into today. So I have a couple on iron already. I have a lot on functional testing, a lot on blood markers and things to be looking for. I do a lot of workshops for gyms, for yoga studios, for Pilates studios, for personal trainers, just because that used to be my background. So I have a lot of contacts in the fitness industry because I spent years lecturing, so teaching those doing their Cert 3 and 4 in fitness. So I had my TAE, was training in that area. So I love doing workshops. I love presenting. I prefer it in person. Prior to COVID, I would have a workshop on nearly every weekend, going to gyms, seeing people, reaching out, doing workshops. Then COVID happened, and obviously that all scaled back. And then now just trying to find my feet with organising live workshops again. So if you are in the fitness industry, or you have a gym or a yoga studio or something, and you're like, hey, Sheradyn, it'd be awesome to collab on something, please always reach out, because I do love doing these things. The online stuff like we're doing today is really accessible for people. So I do love that side of it, that you can all have access to this content, and it doesn't matter that I'm in Margaret River in Western Australia and you guys can be worldwide. So that's always nice as well. Yes, Dominica, I was actually thinking of you going, oh, we should tee up for something. So for those who don't know, my background's actually sports science. So I studied in Perth in Western Australia, did sports science as my first degree, then went on to do my Masters of Human Nutrition. So I moved over east to Queensland. I lived in the Sunshine Coast, but I was studying, doing my Masters online for a year. And while I was doing that, I had my Cert 3 and 4, so my TAE. So that's when I was working for different, they're called RTOs, registered training organizations. So I was working for them. I was lecturing. A lot of started with doing face-to-face, so teaching people how to do Cert 3 and 4 in fitness. And then I went and worked for online RTOs like Vast Fitness Academy and some of those bigger ones. But the online marking was probably, it wasn't stimulating enough for me. Like, it was fine, but I loved the in-person stuff, same with the workshops. And I was working part-time with my business. I was consulting on weekends and evenings, and then, yeah, quit that all and went full-time in with my business. So that would be almost 3 years ago now. So yeah, that's kind of where I started from, the sports, the fitness, wanted to do physio, decided nutrition. Really that came down to my health, which I'll jump into, but that was kind of the leading factor of going, holy moly, there is not enough information on women's health. There's not enough educating and empowering. There's no answers out there. And this is like 10 years ago, right? So the gut health space now compared to 10 years ago is very different. If you say my gut health is important now, people are, oh yeah, I don't know a lot about it, but that makes sense. I want to learn more. Whereas back then, like, I was constipated, I was having one bowel movement a week, and people were like, meh, go take laxatives. I mean, which is still a common thought now, but there is more people like me in the industry who are going, freaking do a stool test. Like, just go poo in a cup and sort your shit out, because you will get answers. Whereas back then there was no one saying that, and it wasn't really talked about either. So I feel like in the last probably 5 years, I feel like there has been quite a shift, and gut health is such a, I don't know, trendy word now, right? So gut health, and more people learning about SIBO, so small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which we'll chat about a bit today. More people learning about the importance of hormone testing, which we'll chat about a bit today as well. So there is a nice push in the industry to go, hey, women's health is really important, and men's as well, but I specialize in women. So women's health is really important. There is underlying cause, like reasons for the symptoms they're experiencing. So that's part of it. I have my podcast, so I'm almost 160 episodes deep in that. So I love doing my podcast. It's fun. I have really good guests on there. I've chatted with the most amazing women, and I froth off that. I have my online Facebook group, my free Facebook group, Gut Health Solutions. I help manage that. There's a self-paced course, which I do live a couple times a year, but it's also awesome for anyone who wants to learn more about gut health. It's just a 6-day course you can go through, do yourself, cover the foundations, understand what you can do prior to testing to really get to the root cause of what's going on. And then really my signature program, where women come in, work with me for 6 months, do stool testing if that's a requirement, but usually stool testing, sometimes SIBO breath testing, and then we dive into either Dutch hormone testing, so dried urine for comprehensive hormone testing, saliva testing for hormones, adrenal stuff, thyroid stuff, blood markers as well. So I've actually got a podcast episode coming out on that today, which I recorded yesterday, around those key blood markers. So then I really work with women over 6 months that enter the program feeling terrible, bloated, constipated, fatigued, something's not right. Sometimes there's skin concerns, sometimes it's weight, fluid retention, low motivation, that stuff. Over the course of that 6 months, we run the testing, they get the support, and they exit the program sort of with a real good knowledge around what they need to do for their health. A lot of their bloating's gone, constipation, bowel movements, those things are improved. So we're treating things like parasites, yeast, leaky gut, bacterial overgrowth. So it's only for women who have tried, quote unquote, all the things and they're ready for that next step. It's not the program that I recommend to people who haven't tried anything for their health. And I say, hey, go do one of my short courses for $100, you'll learn heaps, as opposed to spending a couple grand on your health because you're at that level where you need to do testing and you need answers. That's basically what I do. That's my day today. So my health journey and why I care so much about this stuff is because I have such a chronic health history. So I had 7 years of no periods. I had 7-8 years of chronic constipation. I used to do all the things. So I was, CrossFit, boxing, running, bulletproof coffees, fasting, not eating, quote unquote healthy, eating lots of greens, smoothies, nut seeds, peanut butter was my treat. Like, I was that girl, as opposed to the one now who actually eats all the things and actually eats carbohydrates. I look back now and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? It's funny because I don't know if any of you guys follow or look at Kitty Bloomfield's stuff, but she's a exact replica of what I went through. If you don't follow Kitty, go follow Kitty. She's awesome. But basically I went through this chronic health history. So from when I was 17, 18, I went overseas to Bali, and that's it's the classic story of I was never the same since, which I hear, and a lot of my clients who've had some form of gastro. I picked up, and I didn't know it at the time, but I picked up a SIBO infection, multiple parasites. I got a yeast overgrowth from it. I got Epstein-Barr virus because I got glandular fever at the time. So I was actually really unwell when I came back from that Bali trip because I ended up with that viral infection. That stuffed my immune system so much that I've ended up with psoriasis, other autoimmune conditions, and I was under so much stress from being so sick, but also from studying at university and also personal childhood trauma things that I lost my periods. My body was in fight or flight mode, and no one could tell me what was wrong. They were like, well, you eat greens, you exercise, you're studying, you should be fine. But I was in such an intense health crisis, and my body felt like it had no support, also because I was under eating, over exercising, and had chronic gut issues. It just shut off my period. So I had them from when I was 14 to 18. So I had 4 years of regular quote unquote normal periods, and then they just stopped for 7 years. And then I realized it was adrenal PCOS when I did the testing, but everyone said, oh, maybe it's PCOS, or it's a hypothalamic amenorrhea, or what's going on, just go on the birth control pill. And I was like, surely there is a better answer for a 18, 19-year-old female to go on the birth control pill because she's not having her periods. Same with the constipation, chronic gut pain. I slept on my stomach for years simply because I was so bloated and so much pain that I could not sleep on my back. I needed that pressure on my stomach to get to sleep. A lot of painkillers to try and, minimize the pain of that. I felt like I was at the end of the line. I'd done so much blood testing. They'd done bloody brain scans. They had done what's the one in my back? They did bone marrow biopsies to see if I had leukemia or what was going on, because there was just no answers for the amount of symptoms I had. Everything came back normal. GP said, you're normal. I did not feel normal. Finally, I came across functional testing. I'd finished my sports science degree. I started my master's in nutrition and went, wait a second. I'm working with women who are exercising, eating well, doing the right things, and they've still got symptoms. I'm in the same boat. What the heck is missing? Like there's a gap here. So that's when I came across functional testing, did another year of study in the functional medicine side of things, and then ran the testing on myself, the SIBO, the stool, the Dutch, and I just had all these light bulb moments. And I hear it in my clients every single day. They're like, oh, there's a reason I'm experiencing these symptoms. It's not just in my head, there's actually an underlying reason for it. So that's why I do what I do, because it's like, oh, my adrenals are burnt out, my ovaries aren't happy, I'm in fight or flight mode, I've got SIBO, I've got parasites, I've got candida, I've got immune issues stemming from my gut. To this day, and I have seen thousands of stool tests over the last couple of years, to this day, I still have not seen a stool test as severe as mine was all those years ago. So it's really interesting to start to see what symptoms people are experiencing and sort of what's connected to them. So that's kind of my health journey. That's why I care. I could not do what I do now. I, ride 30, 40 Ks most day, and I go to the gym most days. So I'm working out twice a day. I'm working full-time in my business. I have a very high stress level normally from the management of the business side of things. Plus I'm studying, learning, doing stuff as well. But I could not manage all of that if I hadn't done this work on my health. I would not have the productivity I have now. I wouldn't have the brain function I have now. I'm very switched on, I get shit done, I don't stuff around. I could not do that 5, 6 years ago. I had brain fog, fatigue. I'd be asleep at my desk, at lunchtime because I was so exhausted, because I was so depleted, and I didn't know what was going on with my gut. I couldn't travel as much because the constipation was so uncomfortable. My skin was really, really bad. So all these things all played a role into it, and I'm so thankful I am where I am now, but it's been a massive sort of 10, 12-year journey. So just keep that in mind. Like it's always a process wherever you are in your journey or wherever your clients are at. They really need to do the testing if they want answers. And that's always my thing. People are, oh, but it's so expensive. Yeah, it is. It's an investment though, because otherwise I have people who I spoke to 2 years ago and they're like, nah, I can't afford $400 or $500 on a stool test. I'm like, that's totally fine. Like, that's your budget. They will come back to me 2 years later and say, I should have done it. I'm ready to do it now. I've just spent 2 or 3 grand on different supplements over the last couple of years, iron supplements, gut supplements, different things. And I'm still in the same spot because I didn't get to the root cause. And I'm like, yep, I'll be here when you're ready. I'll be here. I'm not chasing you, but I know how to get answers because I've literally been there, done that. So when it comes to the gut, we know digestion, nutrients, which is sort of what we want to chat about today. Immunity, gut flora is a huge one. Crohn's, ulcerative colitis are your top end immunity things I come across. Your middle stuff though is constantly getting sick, not being able to fight off candida or thrush infections, not being able to fight off parasites, that's part of it as well. And then moods, neurotransmitters. This stuff is really, really important. Anxiety, depression, low mood, low libido, those things. Sure, hormone thyroid plays a role as well, adrenals, but there's also a gut element. And I always say to people, it's a pyramid. If you're not addressing your gut health first, you can forget about your ovaries, your adrenal glands, your thyroid, everything else further up. Address the bottom line, get those nutrients into your system before you start worrying about that top end stuff. So let's chat about iron. Why do we need iron? So basic, not going to dive super nerdy into this, but really it's a mineral. It helps you recover from exercise. It helps with proper functioning in the body. It helps produce hemoglobin, which basically moves oxygen around the body. Your muscles need oxygen. If you don't get oxygen to your muscles, things don't work properly, basically. If you're an athlete or someone who's exercising, or you go for the occasional run, or you ride your bike heaps like me, or you're in the gym and you have low iron stores, you're not moving that oxygen around, you're gonna fatigue, you're gonna feel tired, you're gonna feel terrible, okay? So a lot of people have, and I'm just holding it under the bracket of iron at the moment, but I'll show you when you look at the blood test. There's obviously serum iron, ferritin, stored iron, different things, but let's just keep it as iron, the mineral iron. You need it just like you need every mineral in the body. Minerals, so I've done HTMA training, so hair trace mineral analysis training, which is so interesting. Probably one of the cheapest functional tests you can do. Basically, you just get a snippet of hair from the back of your neck. It's like around a little tablespoon of it, and they send it off to the lab. I think it's around $150 Australian, so it's not an expensive test compared to, say, your stool test, which is about 500 Australian. You send it off, and it's the best test for minerals. Does raising your iron automatically raise your hemoglobin? My hemoglobin iron was very low recently. No, it won't automatically. It would depend. Like if you're talking about raising your iron, I'm assuming you're talking about serum iron, not ferritin. So it would, like taking iron won't directly increase your serum iron levels. They kind of interlink. You'd have to raise all of them, but I'll show you in the blood test section. But when you're testing for iron, you can test serum iron, which is our normal way, but also the mineral analysis stuff is really important when you're looking at that overall mineral picture and how they interact in the bodies, because your minerals are the spark plugs of the bodies. If you don't have adequate mineral levels, you're not going to be able to function the way you should be. So the signs of low iron, the main ones that people know and see about, fatigue is the biggest one really that I hear. People are like, I'm tired, my iron's low, I'm tired, my iron's low. Weakness, chest pain, headaches. If you're anemic, then this is more severe, like the cold hands, feet, brittle nails. Be mindful, and this is why I get people to test. There are multiple signs and symptoms for different things going on in the body. So all these things listed here could be a thyroid issue, right? For example, it could be low thyroid function. You don't know unless you do adequate blood testing on iron levels, adequate blood testing on thyroid, adequate stuff on the adrenal glands, because all this stuff here could also be low blood sugar. It could also be adrenal fatigue. And that's why I say with people, like, test, don't guess, because it can be a sign. But heavy periods would not be a symptom of low iron. Heavy periods can give you low iron in a sense, but if you have heavy periods, that's not because you have low iron. You have low iron because you've got heavy periods, if that makes sense. So heavy periods comes from either an estrogen issue or a thyroid issue. So they're the two reasons you'll have heavy periods normally, unless there's something else abnormal going on. So, but it will definitely give you low iron. So if there's someone had heavy periods, I would say, yeah, test your iron, but get your thyroid, full thyroid panel checked. TSH, T3, T4, reverse T3, reverse T4, both antibodies, and do your estrogen, progesterone, but do it as a saliva test or a Dutch test. Don't do bloods when it comes to your hormones, because you want proper answers there. So when you're looking at iron, you want a full iron panel. So you can get, the best way to do it if your GP won't do it for iron, I should be able to show this to you guys, is you should be able to do iron panel. Ice cream should do it for most people. Let's have a look. So iron, transferrin, saturation, and ferritin. So that's kind of your basic iron that you want to get tested within the body. This one obviously has more listed here as well, but if your GP won't do it, they usually do, but they don't always. But if you want more answers, I would do something along these lines. So you can just get that through your ice screen test collection. So that would be my recommendation for just looking at iron. The other ones, they do, I'm pretty sure they do, like you can do like a nutrition check and like a fatigue check as well. So there's also, yeah, there's quite a few different ones that will pull iron into it, which will give you a better look. Like this is just simply looking at iron in isolation, but as we know, there's nothing in isolation in the body. So I usually say do a bigger picture check. But if you're simply comparing and looking at iron, this is your starting point so that you can look. I mean, this test results obviously got low or high, usually there'd be numbers in it. But ferritin, transferrin, and serum iron. So high or low iron, both are an issue. I think this is really important because my most frustrating thing when people are like, oh, I don't feel quite right. I might just supplement a bit of zinc and iron and get my nutrients back in range, when A, they haven't even tested, and B, they haven't tested. They're guessing, right? So you can't just take minerals and nutrients as a preventative measure. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Okay, test for stuff. If you want to take anything to boost your health, take mineral drops. Go get some freaking trace mineral drops and take beef liver. They're a good preventative measure thing. Don't go and just randomly supplement zinc and iron into the body, because iron is toxic. If you're taking too much iron and your iron levels are fine, you're going to cause cell damage because it's highly, highly reactive. So if you're anemic and you don't have enough healthy red blood cells and you're not transporting the oxygen, sure, potentially you could supplement. So the ferrograde C and those kinds of things are not good forms of iron. You want to glycinate. If you're going to supplement, you want to iron by glycinated form, and you want to take that usually around every second day just to help absorb it properly, whereas sometimes those gates or those receptors can get a bit oversensitive if you're taking the supplement every single day. So a glycinated form is going to be the best if you need to get it up into range, but I would first recommend doing the root cause stuff that we're going to chat about, but I wouldn't go take iron supplement as a preventative measure, and I wouldn't be taking ferrograde C. And if you can avoid it, I would not be doing an iron infusion, particularly only because it's such a massive dump of iron on the body. So sometimes it's necessary if you're totally exhausted and your iron is so low and you just need to get it up, definitely. But if it's a little bit low, it wouldn't be my first point of view to go get an infusion, because A, you're not addressing the root cause of it, and B, if you don't actually need it, it's going to be super toxic on your body. So why is iron low? So heavy periods, like I said earlier, that's definitely can be a reason for it. Most people get told it's your intake, you're not eating enough, but this is usually not the cause. Often, unless you're vegetarian or vegan. Oh yeah, if your iron is like 8, like 6, 7, 8, definitely you can, like same with B12 injections. Some people, iron levels are so low that I'm like, go get one, because you just need that short hit, definitely. But usually we're told iron it's our intake. Often this is not the case unless you're vegan or vegetarian. If you're eating red meat 3-4 times a week, and you're eating the cofactors like your vitamin C, your copper, your magnesium, your vitamin A, that shouldn't be the underlying issue there. But it's usually what we're told to just go eat more, which, like I said, some cases, yes. Have a look on Chronometer, track in like a week, see how much iron you're actually eating over a week, and that'll sort of give you an idea of whether you're way eating under or whether it's an absorption gut health issue. Genetics can play a role into it. Blood loss, so internal bleeding or external bleeding or some form of blood loss can play a role. Not enough vitamin C. Oops, I put that in twice. I'll also say vitamin A. Vitamin C, vitamin A, and copper in the diet are going to be your 3 big ones that impact that iron absorption. And some people do have really low vitamin C levels. I have a client inside the root cause program who just has chronically low iron and chronically low vitamin C, and we've worked on it for years, and her body just struggles to hold onto those nutrients, which means it's struggling to pull that iron into the blood. Bacterial overgrowth, which I'll go into, and also leaky gut lining can be one that's impacted by iron. So the first thing you really need to know is the iron recycling system, okay? So basically the simple version is you need enough copper, bioavailable copper and bioavailable retinol in the diet to open the gates of iron where it's stored in the body and to get it into your bloodstream. to transport oxygen around, okay, to have healthy blood cells. If you do not have enough copper and enough retinol in your diet, you're going to have issues with iron. So often we're having enough iron, so say red meat in your diet, but not enough nutrients, which is why beef liver is so important, because it's not just the iron it's giving you, but it's got the co-nutrients in it. It's got the copper and the retinol in it, so it's well absorbed, okay? Whereas, you know, something like a steak doesn't have as much copper and retinol in it, so therefore, sure, it's giving you a whack of iron, but unless you're pairing it with other things, you're actually not absorbing as much of it as you could be. Enough vitamin C, enough magnesium, enough copper, enough retinol, that's when what we call the gates open, and that's when iron moves from the tissue into the bloodstream, and that's when we get the benefits of it, okay? So you can supplement. I love the Sheradyn brand. If you use the code SHEZ, so Shez, you can get a discount on Kitty's stuff. Follow Sheradyn Instagram, follow Kitty Bloomfield. They are gurus in this space, the Ray Peat stuff, the pro-metabolic stuff. For iron, I mean, everyone's different, but for the iron aspect, these guys have a lot of information and are super, super helpful. So get enough copper in your diet, get enough retinol, and then take something that's going to support iron. Like I said, I would be starting with this. I'd be starting with your beef liver. You can either eat 120 grams a week. So I buy it, I'm in Margaret River, but I get it from a company called Dirty Clean Foods, and they do beef liver mince, like the mince, which has got normal mince, and it's also got the liver mixed into it. So I can cook a heap of that and eat that over a week. I also have supplements at home for if there's a week or two where I am not eating beef liver in itself, then I will take the supplement. So I kind of just alternate between the two. You can also, so Libby Westcombe, who's awesome to follow as well, someone I learned this off, is she would buy like a massive chunk of liver and then just slice it up into like little domino-sized pieces, put it on a baking tray, put it in the freezer and let it freeze in like those little squares, and then chuck it in your Ziploc bags. And then every day she'd just pull one out, fry it up and eat it. I just don't love the smell of it because I'm in a small house and my house just smells like beef liver, which I'm not a fan of. I don't mind if it's cooking in the mince stuff because there's so many other flavors in it. And I don't mind just shotting back a bit of cooked liver in butter and a heap of salt. It's fine to eat because it's just a small amount, but I don't love the smell hanging around the house for the rest of the day. It's not my thing. Some people eat it frozen. So they cut it in smaller pieces and literally just swallow it like capsules. Apparently, if you freeze it, it can kill off the bacteria stuff. I don't know. I'm not a guru in the health science space. So you do you. If you want to eat raw liver, that's fine as well. So there are different ways of having it and eating it. It just depends as to what floats your boat. When eating copper or adding more copper in the diet, should be worried about zinc levels decreasing. No, it'd be very rare. Unless you're not eating any zinc at all, but it's quite rare when you test copper and zinc. Often you can have lower zinc, but it won't be from eating too much copper. Just get a blood test with zinc and check your zinc levels. But if you're eating oysters, they've got a whack of zinc in them as well. So all your nutrient dense foods, this is the thing, guys, all your nutrient dense foods, like your beef liver, will have elements of zinc and copper and things in them. So you're not going to be eating a food that purely has one nutrient in it. And this is the problem with supplementation. Even though I use it heaps within my program, you're supplementing one thing, which is when you start to throw other things out of whack. So I always get clients to do a zinc blood test to check. Often zinc is a little bit low, but it's not dramatic. You can blood test for copper as well. But honestly, if you were worried about that, go and do a hair trace mineral analysis. That's going to tell you exactly what's going on with copper and zinc and whether there's an issue going on there. But I wouldn't be worried about decreasing it if you're eating more copper-rich foods, because like I said, your oysters are super high in zinc as well. Your shellfish, your nuts and seeds all contain zinc as well. So they also contain copper, they also contain zinc. Which iron supplement do you use? No worries. I use a practitioner grade 1, so you won't be able to get your hands on it, but just look for a biglycinated form. So yeah, just look for that glycinated form if you're looking for an iron supplement. But honestly, give yourself 6 to 8 weeks of doing cod liver oil, beef liver, and lactoferrin, which I'll get to the lactoferrin stuff, but I would do these things first. Oh, and lastly, which I didn't put in the slides, is also the lactobacillus probiotic. Okay, so every client who comes into my program, I get them taking lactobacillus as well. Okay, because that is a huge one in increasing absorption. So if I was supplementing for iron, I would take liver, cod liver oil, lactoferrin, and lactobacillus. I would start with that, and then also take the glycinated form in people I know who have really low iron. Like I've got clients who've got really low iron, then I also add in the glycinated form because I'm trying to get it up ASAP. And then after a couple months, we'll get off the supplement and stay on the root cause stuff. Do you need testing before the lactobacillus? No, lactobacillus is pretty fine. If you've got other gut issues, I would say, yeah, definitely go do a stool test. But if you're just using it for iron purposes, you can take it for 8 weeks with your iron supplements and just bring it up into range. Usually I do like 8 to 12 weeks and you're going to be fine. You're not going to throw that out of range. The LGG is really good. The lactobacillus LGG is the strain. But that would be my preference, do that for a couple months. But like I said, if there's anything else, thrush, constipation, bloating, gas, anything else, definitely do a stool and a SIBO test. But if it's just the iron thing, then take the supplement. Almost due for another infusion. Yeah, if you can avoid it, that would be ideal. But Susan, I would test. I would do like if you're due for another iron infusion, I would go get a stool test. I would do 8 weeks of those, like I said, those things, the cod liver oil, the beef, the lactoferrin, that stuff, and I'll just rule out what else is going on. Because if it's not, like if you're thinking about, okay, well, why is my iron low? You just got to go through, okay, is it intake? Am I blood loss? What is my nutrients? Is there any bacteria or leaky gut stuff? Because what a lot of people forget, and I'll come back to this lactoferrin one, but when you have things in the body without iron, microbes can't grow, okay? So all bacteria, fungi, parasites steal iron from our bodies. They take it and they use it to fuel themselves. So if there's any kind of fungi, candida is a huge one, parasites in the body, you're going to have reoccurring low iron levels as well. So if it's, like I said, if it's not intake or absorption of stuff, if you've got things in the body, I'd be really, really mindful of treating them and getting to the root cause of it, because otherwise supplementing or infusions is actually going to make the whole situation so much more inflammatory. And if you've got anything going on in the small intestines and you've got that poor iron like absorption, B12, iron, zinc from the gut, so you're not absorbing those nutrients well, you're also going to have an issue. So it might be an active infection or it might be a SIBO thing. So SIBO is a breath test where you can look at hydrogen and methane bacteria. So you want to treat whatever infection is going on in that small intestine, because that is where we absorb, like I said, those Bs, those zinc, those iron, all that stuff. And you want to understand, and I won't go into it today because SIBO is another whole rabbit hole, but be mindful if there's a small intestinal bacteria overgrowth and you're testing positive for hydrogen or methane bacteria, you need to sort that out before you go supplementing iron. Or if there's stuff going on in the large intestine. So if there's parasites, if there's viruses, if there's bacteria, if there's yeast, if there's any of that's going on in the large intestine, then you also need to deal with and treat that, okay? So that looks like let's just say it's parasites, we do a parasite treatment and we look at your bacterial overgrowth, we use herbs, we use antimicrobials, we use probiotics, prebiotics, and targeted therapy to change that microbiome profile. So that's just a really, really important way of assessing, you know, is it just my intake, or is there something else going on in the gut? So this legend here, this picture here is from the GI 360, which is the stool test I run in clients. And then this one is from the SIBO breath test, which I run in clients. From previous testing, I think it was mostly low good bacteria. The stool didn't look too bad. Could be lack of iron in the diet too, not good with eating. Yeah, so I would just say just track for a week, download Chronometer. I've got a YouTube video on it. Download Chronometer and just track for a week and just see approximately how much iron you're eating over a week, and then you'll get an idea. But if there's low good gut flora and damaged leaky gut lining, like a lot of inflammatory markers, that is also going to impact the whole system, because you've got to remember that iron needs to move from that GI tract and it needs to get into your blood. So that's where something like your lactoferrin is really good. Where is it? So lactoferrin is the iron binding protein found in milk. So a lot of people take I'm going to say it wrong, I don't know why, colostrum, which has got high levels of lactoferrin in it. And if you look at some iron supplements, they will have lactobacillus in it, lactoferrin in it, and the iron glycinate in it, because it helps move it, right? So lactoferrin, super important for any inflammation and healing stuff in the gut. But what it does is it binds to the iron and gets it from that GI system into the bloodstream, because you're thinking if you're eating iron, so let's say you eat a steak, you need to get that iron from your intestine into your bloodstream. So if you've got bacterial overgrowth that is stopping that absorption, well, that's not going to happen. Or if you don't have adequate binders in there, like a lactoferrin thing, which is going to help move it across and move it into the bloodstream. So it helps regulate that. It helps excess release of iron. It helps stop the side effects. There's a lot of studies around it saying that iron binding, it's not a direct iron supplement. So it's different than taking an iron supplement like your Ferrograde C, but it is an iron regulator. So it regulates how much or where that iron's moving around. So it'll just help do that, modulate the immune system. So lactoferrin plays a really important role, especially if there's leaky gut stuff going on as well. If someone doesn't handle milk proteins, there's other supplements I would recommend that do a very similar thing to lactoferrin, which sometimes I start my clients on instead, rather than lactoferrin itself. So it just depends as to where you're at with your gut healing journey. But lactoferrin is something I would recommend, especially, like I said, when there's gut stuff going on as well. Cool. So how to fix your gut, basically. Let me just check that. Which app do you recommend? I'll type it in the chat group. Chronometer is the one. I have a YouTube video breaking it down and probably podcasts on it as well. But you really just want to do the depending as to whether you're just going to do it for a once-off week and see, then just download the free version and use it. But if you are actually going to use it to look at blood sugars and things, then I would actually do the 4-week free gold trial and just split it up into your days so that it tracks nicer. Otherwise, you have all your food in one lump, which is just really annoying. That would do my head in. So diet changes are really important when you're looking at gut health. So trigger foods, whether you need to go into low FODMAP, looking at nutrient density, whether you need to do some kind of elimination style diet, blood test your key nutrients. So I've got a podcast coming out on that today, but also a lot of the stuff that we've chatted about already in regards to iron, and then also any of those other things, thyroid stuff, hormone stuff, whatever it is, have a look at those bits and pieces and just make sure that you test those key things. Treat infections, rebuild and restore your gut lining. So like I said, if there's anything going on SIBO-wise or gut-wise, make sure you treat that stuff. Address your minerals, support your adrenal glands, stress reduction, test, guys. There is so many times I see people and they think there's something going on with their adrenal glands, but they don't know, and then they use the wrong herbs and they make the whole picture worse. Do a proper adrenal test if you want real answers. Digestive supporting herbs is really important for iron levels as well. So stuff like your asparagus or IBS support drops, anything that's got the digestive bitters in it is going to help break down your foods properly so you can absorb things properly. Gut health, just eat enough fiber. Eat your 2 raw carrots a day. Eat your raw carrot salad. Eat some flippin' fruit. Get fiber in. People still tend to undereat fiber, which is going to cause constipation and also fermentation of foods in the gut. If you've got constipation, loose stools, add in some supplement support short term to support that while you're getting to the root cause. Bit of magnesium citrate if you're getting a bit of constipation, or a bit of Saccharomyces boulardii if you're prone to loose stools, just to calm things down while you figure out what is going on with your gut. So things that really help clients, I find a lot of the bloating is a big one. So the SIBO, the bacterial overgrowth, those kinds of things. Bloating is really common in a lot of people I work with because there's fermentation and because there's gut infections, okay? So understanding why there is that bloating, treating the stuff that's in the gut is going to impact your iron levels, okay? So these are clients have all had SIBO or gut infections, and they've just found reducing their bloating has made a huge difference, especially the upper bloating side of things you see as well, like top of the rib cage is a really big one. And then also that lower abdominal bloat where people are like, don't know if I'm just fat or I'm just bloated. Usually it's a bloating thing. So I hope that answers some of your questions on iron and other bits and pieces. If you're interested in doing some testing, you're more than welcome to reach out. The root cause program is the way that I work with people. So it's across that 6 months to implement and make those changes. I don't do one-off sessions, guys. So if you're like, can you just run a HT me, like a hair mineral test or a stool test? The answer is no. I want you to get results. I want you to get answers. And I really love working with someone over a time frame to see them progress and get better and have that actual client connection with them. Whereas when I do one-off sessions, people don't do the work, they don't get the results, they go away with all this information and then they're like, what the heck do I do now? And then they fall off the bandwagon. I want to see people change. I'm really, really passionate about what I do, which is why I have that 6 months to go, cool, I'm going to check in with you every week, see what's going on, see what's happening, make sure you're progressing, okay? Because it's not just my job, it's actually my passion as well. So that's the way I work. Feel free to reach out if you have questions around that, or you want to run testing, or you have clients that want to run testing. The best way to get in contact with me is through email or if you want to book a gut health planning session with me for 15-20 minutes to go, hey Sheradyn, this is what's going on with my health. Can you help? Can't you help? What testing would you recommend? Just jump to my website. You can book a call link through there. It's just under the root cause program. Have a look at that page, book a free planning session, and we can just have a chat and nut out what you need. Otherwise, message me on Instagram and I can send you the link directly as well, because I find most people I just end up talking to on the gram. Any questions now, just chuck them in the chat box and I'll just leave it screen sharing for a little bit in case I need to flick across to answer any of your questions. But anything that's come up that you want to know more on testing, on iron, on supplements, just holler. No worries, Jacinta. Thanks for asking heaps of questions. I know you've learned a lot. Same with you, Susan. I appreciate you. Laura will be shared this by email to rewatch. So yes, it will definitely be shared, Laura. That's okay. Yeah, definitely go back and rewatch it because there's heaps of stuff in there that I think you'll find really helpful. Yeah, otherwise, guys, all of this, you'll be able to access all these. So I'll flick all that through for you. And the loose stools, Saccharomyces boulardii. So flora, let me just show you if I can get out of here. It is the one most people use is the Biosu. Oops, I'm going to spell this wrong. Sorry, Flora Active. this is one, so SB. So Saccharomyces boulardii is the ingredient, which you can kind of get, well, ingredient, it's a yeast product. But this is the main one that most people will go and buy. So I always tell people to take it for barley or travel, but 2 a.m., 2 p.m. if you've got chronic flu stools. Like needing closer and closer, only 6 months out. Wow. Yeah, Susan, reach out by email because I'd be curious to jumping on with the call with you and see what's actually going on. Because if you keep needing iron infusions and closer together, that's 6 months is not good. Like that's pretty inflammatory on your body. That's a lot of mineral dump every time. I'd be doing a HTMA, like a hand mineral thing, or something root cause to find out why, because that's not, yeah, definitely not normal at all. Cool. Let me just start sharing that. Thanks for your question, guys. Thanks for jumping online. Oh, magnesium glycinate. Yeah, magnesium glycinate, good for PMS and stress. Citrate for bowel movement. So with magnesium, you just need to know why you're taking it, what you need. That's the biggest thing there. So you can't just take citrate and expect it to help you sleep and fix PMS, but you can take glycinate and expect it to do those things. So you just need to know what you're taking and why. But anything that's a glycinated form is usually quite well absorbed and acts well on the body. So your iron glycinate is zinc glycinate. But again, different forms, zinc picolinate versus zinc glycinate, you're looking at it doing a different function in the body. No worries, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will hopefully chat to you all soon. Thank you. Bye.